Hey guys, so it seems like every time I post something about my writing or a vlog idea or basically anything creative, somebody always asks me about my inspiration for that idea. And I'm gonna be totally honest, inspiration is something that it doesn't have a formula or a calculation that you can do that sort of magically makes it appear. It's kind of elusive and it's something that you can't really fully explain. That being said, there are some things that tend to help me with my own creative projects, so I thought that I would share this with you guys today, and hopefully they will also help you find some inspiration. So the first tip that I have for you, it probably sounds like a given, and that is just work for it. It sounds so obvious, but you would not believe how many times I've heard people say that they just kind of have to wait for inspiration to strike, or they gave up on something and decided just to do something else that evening because they weren't really feeling inspired. I've said it too. But if you're constantly doing this, then you're not ever gonna get anything done. You can't bottle inspiration, and in the same way, you also can't command it. If you're constantly giving yourself that excuse, that way out of something that you wanna get done, then trust me, it's never gonna happen. The second tip I have for you guys is to be inspired by other people's inspiration. Immerse yourself in books, movies, visual art, music, whatever other artistic expression can help you or might even just potentially be able to help you, try it. I can't tell you how many ideas that I've gotten just while watching a movie. And I'm not talking about like ripping off somebody else's stuff and basing my work off of that. I mean like actual creative, original ideas just based on maybe a theme, or a certain character inspires something, or I'm listening to a soundtrack and a certain theme conjures up some plot idea or character in my head. And sometimes this happens when I'm just randomly watching a movie or reading a book, maybe reading a book for class, something that I would have never read otherwise. And other times it's because I've actually pursued that object, whatever it is, music or a movie or whatever. And finding exactly what works for you, that may take a while, and maybe there's not going to be a specific pattern, but this is absolutely above so many other things that I could tell you. This is one thing that helps me beyond anything else. The third tip I have for you guys is to talk to other artists. Watching YouTube videos sort of is like a light version of this, but sometimes it can really help just to have a conversation, like an actual back and forth conversation with somebody who's artistic in some way. And it doesn't even have to be the same type of art. Like if I'm trying to write a novel, then I don't have to talk to another novelist. I could talk to a short story author, I could talk to a musician, anything that can get you thinking creatively. Overall, it can just help you form your ideas clearer and work through things, or maybe they'll suggest something that they've been thinking about. You could be talking about their novel or a piece of music that they're interested in, and they can inspire you still. It's just really good to constantly be working your brain like that. The fourth tip I have for you is just to experiment with something. Just go with it. Maybe you had a really great idea that you were inspired about last week, and then this week you're not really that keen on it anymore. But sometimes if you're kind of low on inspiration, the best thing that you can do is just make yourself sit down and work on something that you're not so sure about. Sometimes at the end of working on it, you'll still pretty much just hate it, but other times you can sort of uncover something brilliant or potentially brilliant underneath the surface, or it'll make you think of something else that you would have never thought about if you just gone off and went shopping or something. The trick with this one is to make sure that you don't bog yourself down with something that you're going to be miserable working on. So if you have a really complex idea for a 3-book series, if you go into that thinking, now that I've started this, I have to finish all 3 books and I have to write them and edit them and redraft and all that stuff, then you're gonna be miserable. Don't do that. Don't commit yourself to something unnecessarily. Instead, just think, I'm going to work on this for 5 or 10 minutes, or maybe I'll write a page or 500 words. And then at the end of that, I'm going to evaluate what I've done and see if I still like it. And then at the end of that, evaluate what you've done. And if you don't like it still, then scratch it. Just save it for later, put it someplace. I don't like to throw away work. And then of course, there's also the possibility that the idea becomes really great. And the fifth and final tip that I have for you guys is, when all else fails, know when to take a break. If you're pushing and working really hard at something and trying to find inspiration and you just can't, you keep coming up dry, then maybe it's time just to step back and give yourself a slight hiatus. The danger with this one is that, of course, you won't come back to it and that you will never ever get anything done. So make sure you don't give up entirely, just give yourself a certain allotted time that you're going to be taking a break. So maybe if you work every day, you'll give yourself a day off, or maybe a week off to sort of refresh your memory, or depending on what's going on in your life, maybe something comes up and you need to take a month off. But the thing you have to do is make sure you have a schedule, you know what day you're supposed to be going back and working again, and you follow through with that schedule. Those are all the tips that I have for you guys today. I hope you found some of them helpful and that you'll try them out. Also, if you have any other tips for finding inspiration, make sure you leave them in the comments, because I would love to read them and try them, and I think it would be pretty beneficial for other people watching this video as well. I hope you guys are having a fantastic and inspired week, and I will see you in my next video. Good luck!